Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I do hope you're having a good day. Today's podcast is podcast number 17. It is with Clint Grove, who is a podcaster, coach, as well as a speaker. Today, we're talking about body fitness for people from ages of 30 to 40, also as well as basically mindset and focus, as well as podcasting as well. So yes, it was a very interesting podcast today, and I would like to say thank you to Clint. He was outstanding. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed the show, and yeah, get back to me. If you'd like to subscribe to the podcast, that'll be much appreciated too. Anyway, my friends, my life warriors, have a great day. Enjoy the podcast, and hey, I'll speak to you soon. Peace. Okay, let's get this show, as they say, on the road. You ready?
I'm ready, man.
Excellent. Hello, my friends. Hello, my life warriors, wherever you are in the world. I hope you're having a good day. Yes, today is the 4th, Tuesday, the 4th of February. The year is ticking on by nice and quickly. Today I have Clint Grove, who is, how can I say it? He does a number of things. He's a podcaster. He helps with body transformations, mind transformations. He's a great speaker. And yes, today I have him here. Clint,
Thank you.
Please tell the people more.
Oh, well, I mean, it's been a journey of many years, I suppose. Getting into this industry was something of almost like a light bulb moment where I thought, actually, this is what I should be doing. Because you're like, what should I do with my life? What should I do with my life? And then you're like, oh, that's what I should be doing because obviously that's my passion. So podcasting over time has brought me to the realization that helping people in mind and body is what I should be doing. And I like to. I've been a mentor for quite a number of young people over the years, and inspired them to take roots into music, for example, what I used to be into. And over these years, I've mentored a lot of kids, not always intentionally, but just by osmosis or just naturally doing what I'm doing and then inspiring other people. So I thought also I'd like to inspire people to live healthier, take control of their health, and change their habits.
No, that sounds good. No, sounds amazing. In fact, basically one of the things I didn't read when I was reading up on you, not that I was stalking you, but in my sort of research, teaching kids music, I didn't pick that up on you.
Okay. It wasn't necessarily teaching them music, but if you read my about me or my life story, you'd have seen that I was into music for many years, probably 9 years of my life.
Okay.
When I just left school, when I left school, I was into radio broadcasting. So I was a radio presenter and I used to record music jingles and radio adverts. That's how I got into music production.
Yeah.
And then when I was into music production, obviously because you're in the music industry, you connecting with lots of people, and you also a lot of your fans who are like, oh, they want to do what you want to do, are the people who get inspired by what you do. And so there was one guy in particular. I'll give you a case scenario. I'm trying to think of his name now. His on stage name was Sabotage, and he came to one of our gigs, and we had this rap battle going on, and it was in the days of that movie 8 Mile. You know? Do you remember that? Yeah. Rap battling was a big thing. So we had this. Okay, we did our show, and then we said to the guys, okay, is anybody out there want to do a rap battle? So this young guy came on stage, and he started rapping, and we're like, this guy's got talent, really good. And so I said to him, you should come to my studio. So I had a studio at the time. I said, come to my studio. I've got a few tracks. You can lay down some vocals, and let's see what we can do. And I tell you what, he was so good. I even got him to feature on one of our albums. So, and he's gone on to progress in the music industry. So that was an example of as being a mentor for other people.
No, no, that is fantastic. Like put this way, I, as much as I like 8 Mile and I've listened to a rap track in my time, you asked me to do that, I wouldn't be able to do it for like to save top my
Yeah.
life or toffee,
I'm
whatnot.
not a
But
freestyle
yeah,
rapper either.
that's right. Yeah. I think I'll be that guy. I think his name was Clarence, who ended up losing in
Yeah.
in the rap battle. But yeah,
Mm.
very good. So um, was this over here in the UK or was this in South Africa?
South
Just
Africa. Yeah. Yeah.
okay. Like, so, like, how long have you been over here now for?
I've been here since 2009, I think it
Yeah,
is, or let's say 2010 full time. So yeah, it's 10 years. 10 years in the UK.
10 years in the UK. So, with like 10 years being in the UK, how did you like go from being someone who's like basically doing music
Yeah.
like in South Africa, coming over to
Yeah.
the UK, and now is helping people with like mind and body transformation? How did that come about?
Yeah. That's a good question, and my journey is still developing. So
Mm,
when I first came here, being in the music industry, running my own business. So I had sound hire company where I had a few speakers and amplifiers I used to hire out, and I had a recording studio. So it was nothing major, and making in the music industry was quite tough. So when I
yeah.
first came over here to England, I thought, okay, let me try to do it. But actually, where I live right now is in the middle of nowhere. So, and
Yeah.
it's where my wife grew up, and we thought, okay, I thought, let me give it a go. So Cambridge is quite close. And I started a band here in the UK, but it didn't work. And I thought, well, I want to have kids. So I started, had my first kid in 2011 when I in here in England, my first year after being here. And I had to get serious and say, look, I'm not sure music's gonna pay the bills. You know what I mean?
Have that little child looking at you like going, I need to eat.
Yeah.
It's like,
So I was like, I got to face the music and get a real job.
yeah.
Um, well, get a job that is not so tough at the top, if you know what I mean. So I just did like menial jobs. I worked at the bank. I worked as a landscaper, but I always had a very technical mind.
Okay.
So my mind, as well as technical as well as creative, which is I think pretty cool. Like I got a good analysis of both left and right
Mm,
brain, you know. And so having that technical ability and also having the creative ability, I thought, let me get into. I really wanted to get into something technical like IT. It's way different to health and wellness.
yeah.
Wellness, but so I got into IT doing business intelligence, data analytics, which is
Hmm.
actually still my day job as of today. And my health and wellness business is a side business,
Yeah.
which is
Okay. Yeah.
which has only been 1 year in the making. And so transitioning from like data analytics and IT into this was actually, like I mentioned earlier, a light bulb moment. I was traveling with my family down to Felixstowe. We were at the beach about, was it the beginning of last year or maybe 2018 summer? I can't remember.
Okay.
And so my wife and I were talking about what it is that I really want to do because I thought, well, you know, I was in my, just turned 40 and I was like, what am I going to do? Am I going to be doing IT for the rest of my life? And I thought,
Mm,
looking back in my past, and I think this is good for some people, maybe your listeners, to assess your life and think, what is it that I've been doing that I really enjoyed? How can I look back and then assess my life and say, oh, that's what I like. That's what I'm
mm,
passionate about. Because people are like, well, I don't know what I'm passionate about. And so I looked back and my wife and I were just assessing my life and saying, okay, throughout those years, being in radio and then into music, what was I actually doing when I was doing the music?
yeah.
And I mentioned it being like a mentor, being somebody who other people looked up to. Not that I've got it all sorted, but because I've got the character that just goes and does stuff no matter what.
Mm,
It's kind of like you starting a podcast. Like, not everyone's doing it, right? But we got that
no.
motivation to do it. So I thought, okay. And back in those days, I was like spreading a message through the music. You know,
Mm,
a lot of musicians want to spread a message through their music. So I thought, music's not working for me, and I know that I could spread a message about something else. You know, uh, doing something else. And I thought, I'm really into fitness. I'm really into health. I've always have been. Even in my 20s, I used to make my own bread. I used to soak my own, vegetables like
Yeah.
sauerkraut. I made my own whey from milk. I was into like all these books about diet, and my friends used to like have a go at me, like, try and tempt you to have a crisp and a sweet.
Oh,
So
so chocolate bar. Have it. Have it.
yeah, you know, and I thought, well, what am I into? I'm into health.
Mm,
I'm into sports. I've always been doing something. I surfed for 10 years when I was in Durban.
okay.
So I was a surfer. I was a gymnast when I was younger. I did motocross. It's just I was always active, and so being in the UK, I was quite inactive, and I thought
Mm,
I've got to get back into that. And then in the last, say, that's where I met George. I met him at Pure Gym.
yeah.
Started getting back into gym. Started getting into fitness, and I thought I love fitness. I love food and nutrition. I want to spread a message. How can I do that?
Mm.
And and here we are.
Oh, no, no, fantastic. No, because yeah, back at like if this was this time, maybe yeah, this time last year, that Pure Gym would have been my local Pure Gym as well. So yeah,
All right.
and now in London. But no, that is great. So you're focusing on 30s and 40s. Why not why not younger or like slightly older? Why that
Yeah,
demographic?
and I suppose I don't have a very good answer to that, but
Okay.
I suppose when throughout our training, because I went on health coach training, I'm still training in training,
Mm,
because obviously life is full of training, isn't it? You can constantly better yourself. But through the training that I had was saying you should have a niche market. And I thought I would actually like to help guys my age. So I just turned 40. What does it look like for me? And during your 40s, it's actually a tough time for men. It's their lowest years, mentally.
okay.
Yeah.
How
And
so?
why do they get low?
Uh, well, I would imagine either a testosterone count going down or just a case of many a guy, if they're married and they've got kids, this is like most probably one of the times where they most probably be less focused on themselves. Um, you tell
Yeah.
me. Like that's just a couple of rough ideas which like spring to
Yeah.
mind. I could be completely and utterly wrong about that,
No,
but
no, no. I think you've said some good things there, and I suppose for me, and this is nothing, no research or science behind it. It's just for me
mm,
personally. I had my kids the first kid I had was when I was 34, somewhere 35, somewhere around there,
mm.
and and I got four kids. It's pretty crazy, but
Okay, you know what, man? I respect to you. You don't like sleep.
how many kids have you got?
None so far.
None so far.
No,
So
but what I'll simply say is when my time comes, my time will come. So,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, and well, you'll find that, and I'm not sure that it's just for every man,
Mm,
but you have kids and you
mm,
really invest your life into those kids.
yeah.
Well, I think if you're a good dad, you do that. I've
Mm,
seen some dads who carry on like they're still single, or carry on like they've never had kids, and the
yeah.
kid's sent off somewhere, and the kid, you know, I'm not a big fan of that. So I pour myself into the kids and like, okay, I got kids now. It's daddy time. Forget
Mm,
about yourself, and you need to be a good dad for these kids now. But actually, you'll find that, well, I found that when they get a bit older, as
yeah.
in they can go to the toilet by themselves, they can pull up their pants by themselves, they can put their shoes on by themselves, the age of 4, round about there. Then you're like, hey, I think I've done my job. And you can start to creep back into who am I? What am I doing again?
Yeah.
Oh, I need to rediscover myself. So that could be at different ages, right? If you had kids really young, that
Yeah.
could come quicker. If you had kids at a late age, that might come later. So it's that rediscovery, it's that re-identification of who is it, who am I? You know.
Mm, okay. And like basically, if someone came to you in their like 40s, like 30s and 40s, what would you do with that? What would you do with them, depending on what their goals might be? It's
Mm.
like, yeah, I'm like I've been a dad. Yeah, like I looked in the mirror. The midriffs are getting a bit more midriffery. Like, it's like would it just be down to the physical, or would it be other aspects as well?
Yeah, good question. And it's maybe I'll relate it to my current two clients that I've got right
Mm.
now. And the one guy wanted to, and it was quite a vague or general ambition, was to be a better person. And I thought, well, I asked him, what does that mean to be a better person? Because,
Yeah.
people want to be better than what they were. So he's like, and he went on to articulate that he he was scared to fail in a sense, and so scared to try because he thought he might fail,
Yeah.
right? And so it was that the fear of trying something new, because either he would be down on himself or other people would look at him in a way that it was like he didn't want that negative feedback, basically.
Right.
So I said to him, okay, why don't we just hone in on something? Let's try and get rid of the fear of trying. And that was one of his goals during the process. But he also said, oh, I'd like to have a six pack at the same time. So,
Okay.
so okay, I want to get rid of fear of trying things, and I want to start my own business, and also I want to look good at the same time. So I thought I can help you with that. And
Right.
so the program that I put them through is geared towards not just the physical, but if you want to be, and this is a quote from Dave Asprey, if you want to be superhuman, then you have to get your food right first. And if you get the food right, you didn't say it in exactly those words, but it's paraphrased.
Yeah.
But if you want to be superhuman, if you want to be more than just the average and die young before your time, and you want to live longer and live better and live healthier, you've got to get your
Yeah.
food right. And actually, that's going to help you to accomplish a lot of other things. So fixing nutrition, fixing your habits around what you eat, because actually, what do you do the most? What do you do every day? Pretty much, you eat every
Mm.
day. What do you think about a lot? Think about
Yeah.
food.
Yeah. Keep this up. I'm going to start thinking about food right now. I make myself a sandwich here and
There
now.
you go.
So, but yeah, okay. So you like basically six pack, getting that, helping get over fear of trying, and
Mm.
then basically just like sort of general getting himself back into shape, as well as being a bit like a new business owner. Like
Mm.
uh that is a tall order. Like when you first said, yeah, you wanted to be a better person, my response would have been like, what do you mean? It's like,
Yeah. What do you
uh,
mean? Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, where's like you can't really sort of have a measurable goal for that sort of statement. So
Mm.
it must be kind of hard trying to really get people to get down to what their true essence of what they want to do.
Yes, it's the why beneath the why, in a sense.
Mm,
And when I take them through the process, it's like, okay, why do you want that? How would it make you feel?
mm,
What would that do for you? Um, what would be the best thing about that? And you kind of repeat the questions, and you get deeper and deeper. And so it normally comes down to, or not say normally, we can't put everyone in a box, but
oh,
it comes
yeah,
down to people's ideal of either the ideal of themselves, or if they're religious, an ideal of, let's say, if they're a Christian, ideal of Jesus Christ. How am
mm,
I? How am I stacked up against that ideal? you know so if you fall short of your own ideal of your own self, then that's when you're down on yourself. You're like, well, I haven't got there yet. But it's not necessarily it's a good thing to have an
yeah,
ideal of yourself and to try and strive towards that. So underneath a lot of the guys that I coach, underneath that is like, well, I want to be a better dad, for example, or I want to
yeah,
be a better partner to my partner, uh, or I don't want to be seen as a failure, or I don't want to I just want to be someone that other people can rely on. So
mm,
they feel almost like they haven't quite met their own standard, you know?
yeah. No, yeah. Like when you mentioned like don't want to be seen as a failure. Like I've got to like with that. I think it's one when people say don't want to be seen as a failure, one of the things I always tend to think of is the most successful people you ever see in the world are more often than not some of the greatest failures we've actually ever seen. It's like, yeah, time and time again, you'll see like pick out a person like Oprah, for example. She's like failed a bunch of times, and now she's like the biggest talk show, like not even talk show is. She's like the biggest like sort of lifestyle brand, like everything you want to achieve in this sort of realm, time and time again. But she's failed countless times. You think about any time you like think of any major sports personality, they've most probably failed tons of times. I think sometimes it's unhealthy for people to look at just life as like victories or failures, because in order to get that sort of ultimate victory at times, you're going to have to go through the grind. You're going to have to go through that sort of the trenches of failure before you get that success. um
Yeah.
I don't know. I might be rambling here, but yeah, but that's one of the things when if I hear that, I'm like, yeah.
Mm. Mm. I'm just trying to think of something I learned recently about success, right? And sometimes we want to only celebrate the big if we get to that big goal. But
Mm,
actually, what we should be celebrating is our journey towards the big goal. So you might have heard this from other personal development guys or motivational guys who say that just try to be 1% better than what you were yesterday.
mm,
So instead of like, well, I have to be up here, this is what I'm aiming for, just try to be 1% better than when you were yesterday. And then sometimes look back and say, you know what, 3 months ago, I was doing this and that. And now
mm,
look at me, this is my new baseline. And because your new baseline is a lot better than it used to be, you can celebrate in that, even though your baseline, or at least your your aspirational baseline might be really high.
yeah.
You can still celebrate those little milestones that you get, right? Because one success, if you get to success, more than likely you're going to want another goal to get towards. So
Mm,
your relief or your celebration for that big success that you want is going to be short lived. You know, just say I get my six pack, right?
yeah.
Like, oh, I got my six pack. Um, what's next?
Yeah, no, like yeah, no, I agree. Like I don't know if you know a YouTuber called True Geordie. Uh,
No.
no, he had. Why am I blanking on? He had Tyson Fury on his podcast,
Oh
and
yes.
like basically, this is when just after Tyson Fury won everything, and then basically went a little bit off the rails. But he was talking about pretty much the same thing you just mentioned here, how
Mm,
he got everything he wanted. He basically like that sort of big sort of like I need to be world champion. I need to be world champion. He achieved his goal. He got it, and then he was like, what do I do now? He woke up in the morning, what do I do now? And it's
exactly.
sent him into a spiral of depression,
Mm,
where it wasn't a case of like, it's great to have a target, it's great to have a goal, but
mm,
it's one of those things where you got to kind of have it as a living organism, if you get what I mean. So it
mm,
doesn't just stop there, it just keeps on going, if you get
mm.
what I mean.
Yeah.
Um, but yeah, a very good, like, interesting point. Another person, what comes to mind, I don't know if you know a guy called David Goggins.
Oh yes, I love him.
Yeah. So yeah, because it like very much what you said sort of like ties into his like
Yeah.
40% rule. Like so, it's like yeah, every time incremental grew up like increasing it bit by
Yeah.
bit to like where your new 40%, it's like before you know it, your 40% is now 60, 70, 80, and like yeah, who knows? But yeah.
Definitely. Um, yeah, I like the idea of that. Almost identification, I think, is something we might want to consider in that if you think about these guys who have reached those levels and then they kind of become depressed. So we talk about, Tyson Fury.
Yeah.
What is it that caused that? And maybe it's let's say I identify with being a successful health coach,
Yeah.
and I said, well, my goal is to make £100,000 a year, and let's say that's all I identify with that goal. When I achieve that goal, my identification almost crumbles because it's like, okay, I got it. Now what? You know. Whereas I think if you identify
Yeah.
as a person and you enjoy being that person, then
Mm.
no matter what your goals are, even if you fail those goals or you get those goals, perhaps when you do achieve them and they do fail, you still feel secure in yourself that this is who I am. I am this person. I am somebody who gives to others. I am somebody who helps other people. I am someone who attracts clients to myself. I am this. And you kind of like give yourself an identification so that you know that your identification is not hinged upon certain goals to be achieved, but
Yeah.
rather it's just who you are.
Like, if you can, how did you sort of like get like, because for me, you've got like a very sort of positive tone and like you project a very positive outlook on life. I like for many a person that might not be the case. Like, can you tell me how that came about?
Yeah, I suppose I've always been quite a deep thinker and
Mm,
a spiritual person. So, growing up in a Christian home and
hmm.
then, going to church for many years, I suppose, tapping into that which is greater. And that could be whatever you want to call it, if you want to call it God or energy or the Tao or whatever it is. Back in the day, it was God to me.
Mm,
And, but through the years now, I'm not so tied to that necessarily. But now it's more, spirituality has grown over the last few years. From what I noticed, maybe it's the circles that I, you know, the people that I listen to or whatever it
mm,
may be. So like people like Vishen Lukhani from Mind Valley, and the guys that kind of like talking about spirituality, but not necessarily religion. I think when we tap and into that which is greater, then we are not just islands, or we're not seeing ourselves as something separate. And when we connect to that which is greater, and we think and we feel ourselves as connected to others. So
mm.
your success is my success, for example. Like
Yeah.
you're a podcaster, I'm a podcaster. If you get bigger than me quicker, I shouldn't have that. Well, I'm jealous of him, etc. Whatever. It's like me and you are connected, not just because we're podcasters, but because we're brothers, man. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah. Humans under the same sun. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah.
So we're the same species. We, even if we're not just humans, are also connected to nature.
Mm,
I'm that tree is giving oxygen to me. I'm giving that tree some carbon dioxide. There's
mm,
this connectivity and cooperation in nature, which I think is so powerful to align yourself with. To say, I'm not. The world is not against me. Well, even though nature, some guys might say nature's trying to kill you. I, I don't know. I mean, yeah,
well, I would say it depends which environment you're in.
you, yeah.
Try, like, well, if you see a like a pride of lions, and you're on Serengeti and there's nothing else around.
Yeah. And there's that aspect, right?
Yeah.
But I suppose you just got to see it a little bit deeper than that. Yes, okay, there are some dangerous situations, but
Mm,
actually, entirely, if you look at the entire system, it's all working together cooperatively
mm,
to make this wonderful life. And if you see yourself as a part of that, and that life is abundant, life is giving, um, that not life is not there to make your life a misery, but if you have the mindset of abundance, the
mm,
mindset of more, both and, instead of either or scarcity or lack, then if you're in scarcity and lack, and either I have to have this or I do that,
mm.
then your positivity is not so great.
Yeah. No, I have to agree with you. What I tend to see a lot, especially if anyone's out there like sort of really like trying to push forward, when they're in the sort of like mindset of scarcity and lack of, it's like, there's going to be a scarcity of customers. There's like 7.5 billion people on this planet. Like if you narrow that down to just this little island of ours, there's like almost 70 million people on this island. If it's about being in a specific demographic, there's going to be like, yeah, millions of people in that demographic, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Uh, and like, and then like it's a case of, oh, we lack the resources, and like, oh, I don't have a camera, I don't have this is what I
Hmm.
need to do to start some new endeavor. Like, don't get me wrong, there are times where that is true. If you wanted to start, like if we wanted to start a newspaper, I don't think any of us have got a printing press to like deal with a large volume.
Hmm.
But it's a case of you don't need to do that these days because you can like get around it in other ways. I
Hmm.
think it's a case of when people are in that sort of mindset, they do shut themselves down. I think they put themselves in a they put themselves in a they no put themselves they pigeonhole themselves from their potential. Um,
Mm,
yeah, so it's very sort of, how can I say? It's very difficult for them to sometimes see the greater
mm.
picture.
Yeah, yeah. And I think that if they do think that life is against them, then the battle is being lost already.
Mm,
And if you take abundance from abundance, abundance still remains.
yeah.
It can never be depleted. So
Mm,
so people must, well, not must realize, that's a bit weird, but people should or could realize that this is abundant, that the universe is abundant, and that there's plenty of opportunities. And just give you one thing that we teach I teach my clients is to look at themselves in the mirror and say, "I love you, man. I love you." And it's really difficult for some people to do that because they don't feel like they valuable, in
mm,
themselves. Oh, I don't deserve this. Or they might not say it out loud, but they might feel that they don't deserve something.
mm,
And our brains are quite used to wanting, I want success, or I want more money, or I want a better body, but
mm,
actually we're quite uncomfortable with having, and we mentioned that a little bit earlier. So it's
yeah,
getting over that process of, actually, if you did get what you were asking for, if you got everything that you were wishing for,
mm,
how would you handle it? What kind of person would you be?
yeah,
How would that affect other people? Really think that through about, okay, even if you start to have this mindset of abundance, start to think then, okay, I'm going to achieve what I'm going to achieve, and how's it going to affect the people around me? Is it going to be a good thing? Is it going to be a
yeah,
bad thing? And then also start to believe in your worth, because if people feel that they're not valuable, then you're also fighting against the grain, I suppose. You're fighting against yourself
mm,
in that, well, if you don't see yourself as valuable, then you don't actually want to look after yourself. So how are you going to look after yourself, make yourself better, feed yourself the right food, give yourself the right mental food, if you don't believe that you are valuable to this whole ecosystem?
mm.
And I was watching this program last night. It was quite sad. What's it called? Losing It, on Channel 4, I believe. And it's
Okay.
about mental health.
Mm,
And they were showing this girl. She was 11 years old, and she's having suicidal thoughts. And she actually felt, this is what she said. She said she felt like everyone's a jigsaw puzzle, and they all fit in except for her.
mm.
And it's quite sad, really. Like,
Yeah, no, like uh, there, there is a, I would say there is a lot of pressures out there for like kids coming up today. Like you're 40, like you're 40 right now.
43 at the moment.
43. Okay, yeah. I'm 45 myself. Like when we both came up, like the internet was something a work of fiction and science fiction. It was nothing like that. Like to just say, yeah, mobile phones, like mid 90s,
Hmm.
they were everywhere. But
Yeah.
before that, it was a thing of you could find one if like here and there. And when you're talking about Instagram, like all the social media platforms, TikTok, like Facebook, that was something which you just didn't like, you couldn't fathom, if you get what I mean.
Mm.
Now it's something, well, all kids have to grow up with, and you try to sort of like go, right, this is like how, like, I as an adult, if I had to tell a kid how to navigate those waters, I
Mm.
think I would be very sort of hard pushed, if you get what I mean, because I
Mm.
don't sort of have any sort of frame of reference. I wouldn't know what type of pressures that would be putting on,
Mm.
like a like small kid, like a child just grown up with a whole world of insecurities, which we all did when we were kids, you know?
Mm.
Yeah.
Well, it's tough. It's like being a dad and then trying to give your kids the best start.
Mm,
Um, it's something obviously that I was very keen on doing for my kids. The first, so this is what, if you're going to be a dad in the future, my
uh,
advice to you is this, right? And I mentioned it a little bit earlier, that up to the age of 4, so from 0 to when they turn 4,
Yeah.
if you get something right in their makeup, that they're the type of kid who other kids want to play with, or type of kid who behaves in public in a way that makes you proud. If they're the type of kid who can have resilience, who can deal with situations and not totally lose it. And kids lose it sometimes. I'm not saying that they're going to be as strong as adults. But if
I
you
would say there's some adults who lose it at times as well. So yeah.
if you can develop them in such a way, that foundation that they've had in those first 4 years is really going to be something that can carry them through for a long time. So I'd say even if I disappear out of their lives right now, they're going to be strong kids. So I think the most, and I'm not saying that we should do that, right? Obviously, you're not going to want to do that if you love your kids. But what I'm saying is, if I did die, for example, that I've done my work, right? And I think I've done my work with my kids, and that helps us as males to say, what can I do next? How can I help next? And obviously, you still got to be an input to your children. But and for listeners out there who's maybe like, I had my chance, and my kids are older now. It's never too late, right? To be able to input greatly into somebody's life. That's what we do as coaches, right? Because we're helping people who might have mental blocks, or people who might have attitude changes that they want to go through. And we all need some help in life. But if you do have the opportunity to grow up a kid from the age of 0, then, you should do your best to input into that child the best you can. And obviously none of us is perfect. None of us has the right recipe. You just got to give it your best. And kind of, you got to do away with yourself. Because you know what I found with parenting? Like if I want to put my kids to bed, I want to go watch TV. I want to go watch SAS Who Dares, my favorite program. And I'm like, just go to bed. But actually,
sleep.
Yeah. But actually, it's a bit selfish. So being a parent means you got to be a bit selfless, and that's hard. That's hard for a lot of us.
Yeah. No, like this is the thing. I always say I've seen, but I don't know with the realms of parenting. I've seen like my friends, like my first wave of friends who had their kids and everything like this, and like, yeah, like the first time they're like, yeah, okay, we've got a night off, we're gonna come out. Yeah, you're like, okay, yeah, that's great. Yeah, can't wait to see you guys. It's gonna be brilliant. They go, yeah, it's gonna be great. Blah, blah. Come Saturday night, it's like, hey, where are you guys? We fell asleep. We fell asleep. It was just like, yeah, like just a night where we could just sleep and wake up at any time we wanted the next day. Great. But it's one of those things, like the sort of pressures, the sort of like sleepless nights, all of the small things where you just see like this small human being develop and grow, and like what I mean, become a little bit more like you, a little bit more like your partner, and then like where they get this other stuff from, where they're completely different to both of you, and then like that's a scary ride right there, because like if you screw it, like there's many ways you can screw it up, and that I think that's something which plays on good parents' minds. Like there are parents which what I mean, it's like they can deal with it themselves, but if you want to have a decent human being which can function in this like topsy-turvy crazy world of wonders we live in, you got to arm them well. Arm them, not the right word, put a good foundation stone in place.
Yeah. And I mean, I suppose someone might beat themselves up and say, oh, I've messed up and I haven't given my kid that. But like I said, it's never too late, But I suppose just thinking about what you were saying, when you're in a pressure situation, and that pressure situation is, I'm currently in the pressure cooker myself, because it's four kids I'm trying to make a business of what I'm doing right now.
Yeah.
I have high motivation. I've got a lot of goals that I put a lot of pressure on myself.
Yeah.
And when you're in the pressure cooker, you find that a lot of your worst traits come out. And you should actually relish that in a way. I was cycling yesterday, and I was on quite a long cycle, and I quite like. Sometimes I'm tempted to put something in my ears and listen to something, but I
Yeah.
thought, yesterday I'm just going to not do that, and I just started speaking to myself on the bicycle. I'm like, and I started speaking over myself, like I am successful, I attract clients, I
Mm.
am somebody who helps other people, I'm a loving, caring, kind person, and you start to speak over yourself because in if you're in that like I talked that situation where there's a lot of stress on you, bad things are going to start coming out.
Yeah.
But actually, it's good that they come out because then you can start to deal with them, right? It's like, well, okay, I see that I'm quite impatient. So how can I help myself be more patient? And you just got to work on those little things, little bit by little bit,
Yeah.
and just try and be a better version of yourself than what you were yesterday, but only by that small amount.
Uh, Indeed. Like it's a constant path of like, well, you're putting into practice which you say to your clients, always sort of constantly self-improvement on a day in, day out basis.
Yeah.
Plug for my show. But yeah, but that sort of constant adjustment, that constant tweaking. Like, yeah, it's never going to be perfect, but eventually it'll bring you a lot further away from where it was not right to closer to being right, if you get what I
Mm,
mean.
yeah. So how do you help people? What's your thing?
Like at this, like most of the times at my 9 to 5, I work in sales, like hitting the telephone, calling people around the world. When I'm not doing 9 to 5, like I'm training to be a personal trainer. So like doing that at this present time, doing my level 2, my level 3. So once I get that, who knows? I'm more than likely be working either in a gym or like doing like stuff on one-on-one,
Mm,
depending on the circumstance. But if I generally put out a positive motivational message out there on my social media on a regular basis right now.
mm,
Something I'm doing this year. I'm doing 61 push-ups a day for the next for the next 360 like 6 days to raise awareness for soldiers with PTSD.
okay.
So it's like, yeah, I try to put out positive energy in the world myself. But along those lines, I don't have a sort of fixed or set thing right now because I've had uh, David McQueen, who I had on my podcast about 2 weeks ago, and he asked me what this podcast was about. I said it's about talking to people, helping me sort of get out my comfort zone to help grow.
Mm,
Because what you tend to find as you get older, you talk to less and less people, and certain things become more set in
mm,
their ways. So mindset, outlook. So to sort of break that down, but there is still a large part of this like podcasting world which I've got to say I'm not exactly sure what that might develop or grow into.
mm,
So it's like I have an idea of, I'm going to say maybe 30% of what it's going to be. And I'm not too sure where the rest of that 70% is going to go. Like as I've talked to more and more people, I'm like, I could have just said, I want a podcast just about fitness. Let me just talk to fitness people. Or I could have had a podcast just about banking and
mm,
just speaking to banking people. At
mm,
this moment in time, no, I want to talk to as many people as possible,
mm,
like see what's going on, like have like these conversations. Good friend of mine, I've known her for many years, Amy, like who was on the last podcast. She's a mental health expert, and like it's like, yeah, talking about, and this is the thing. In many of the conversations I've had, it like I won't lie, there are some things I have no clue about, but it's
mm,
one of those things. That's me now.
mm.
Me in a year's time, I'm sure I'm going to be different. Me in 2 years' time, I'm sure I'm going to be even more different.
Yeah.
5, 10, but like with this, like yeah, um, I feel this is a good way for myself to do that and help basically seek out some of the change I want in my life. You know what I
Mm,
mean? Give me a better outlook. Like yeah. And the day when kids come, yeah, like by all means, when the difficult questions like why is this and why is that and why come, I would like to be able to like be armed with me like with a much more sort of broader repertoire of replies to help with those answers. Yeah, but you know what I mean. As I say, I'm just starting out right now. Like I've
Yeah.
been like I started the podcast back in November,
Mm-hmm.
and like I've only sort of really started getting people on it for the last month, month and a
Yeah.
half,
Yeah.
and yeah, so yeah, proven to it's an interesting thing. Like
Mm.
their conversation, like getting like having the conversation is the easy part of like podcasting. What I've like found,
Mm-hmm.
like talking, like yeah, listening, like get like you know what I mean. Basically, in getting a little bit more enlightened. That's great. Getting the people is the trickier thing, and I don't
Yeah.
think people actually realize that.
Yeah.
I think people that like think, oh yeah, I've started a podcast and now it's here. They shall come.
It's your
It's like,
takes a
yeah,
bit of work.
yes, and I think that's one of the things.
Mm.
It's one of those things like it puts for me. It's put me in like into places where I might not necessarily be comfortable with, but
Mm.
it's good. If I was totally and utterly comfortable with it, then I would simply say maybe I'm doing the wrong thing at this present time.
Yeah,
Maybe
because
I
it's
need to,
stretching you.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. I don't know how it is for yourself. How many podcasts have you done at this present time?
Um, 30, 34, 33 podcasts I've done.
Mm,
And not all of them have had guests, but most of them have. So I must have had, I'm sure I've probably had 28 guests over the last less than a year.
yeah.
And that is, it is tricky to get guests, of course.
Mm,
I've got one lined up for next week, chiropractor. So I'm talking to different people as well. Like, I mean, you know, chiropractor is not, it isn't a health business, but it's
yeah.
not like what I do, right? Is a friend of mine. But I also found that one thing to note, and I don't know how to get over this myself. So it's just a chat between me and you, really, and our listeners. Is that where are they? Are they
No,
listening?
don't worry. No one else will hear this.
So what I've noticed is that, and it might not be everybody, because it's probably not everybody, but when people start something, and you talked about New Year's resolutions, is that you
Mm,
start well, and then you kind of like dip off a little bit,
yeah.
and sometimes there's really good reasons for that. It may be that something really bad happened in your life, or some major life event happened,
True.
but most times you'll find that even if you start doing personal training, that people will come for 3 months and then they'll dip off. So
Mm,
what is it about that um, pattern that we can try and get ourselves out of? So, for example, my podcast started May last year, and
okay.
it was actually, it ramped up quite nicely in December because I was speaking to Dr. Ian Tennant, who wrote the book Restoring Balance, and we did a 6-week series, and we did live podcasting, and my
Okay.
listenership grew. But at the end of last year and the beginning of this year, my job got really busy, and I started to
Mm,
become a little bit demotivated because I was like, it's just too much going on in my life, and I haven't had a podcast out for a whole month, and
mm,
I have to look at myself and say, why has it happened? Why
yeah.
why have I not done one weekly like I usually do? So I'm not sure if there's something, a pattern in your life maybe that you've seen that's similar, like, and why did you do that?
Yeah.
Sorry, I'm asking you a question now.
Like with the sort of how can I say when you realm where you have that sort of realm of resistance and where things are not going smoothly, I know like it's easy to fall into that realm of being distracted, and it's a case of trying to keep yourself on course sometimes can be difficult. It's like when you first start working out, like there'll be like things which can like if you worked out in the evening, like there's a highly likelihood of there's something coming up in the evening rather than say than in the morning to like go, yeah, I can't work out. And when that one thing happens, then it's 1 day, 2 days, a week, 2 weeks, and it's like going, oh no, I haven't been to the gym for X amount of months. And then it's a case of like, yeah, getting that, building that momentum back again can be so much more difficult, sometimes 2, 3 times more difficult than when you first originally started.
Yeah.
I'm trying, I'm like with this, I'm trying to get things. I'm rambling a little, but I'm trying to get things sorted. It's like start getting. It's I don't have a set day I do it, but I'm just trying to build momentum right now, so I can like go, okay, got a number of people lined up, and then like go right. So if I did ever have a period where I've like something happens where I'm thrown off, like I would be able to go right. I've still got a sort of little buffer, then I can get more people in.
Yeah.
It gets close to the end, but yeah, it's one of those things I can't really sort of answer it clearly because I need to be in that and like yeah. So I'm working on that right now. Like so, busy on LinkedIn, like communicating with people, trying to get more people on, and yeah.
Well, do you think maybe it's also the idea of reward in a way? So think about it like this, right? Let's say you try something and you really give it your all,
Mm,
and the rewards that you were expecting or the results that you were expecting weren't quite there. And so in a way it becomes a little bit demotivating because you're like, you put all this time in the gym, you're not seeing the rewards like you should do. And therefore, even though it's not obvious, subconsciously, it's something that's there. So, for example, I've put in a lot of effort into doing podcasting, but the rewards are slow, even though I went into it realistically,
mm,
knowing that going into anything new like this, where the market's so big and there's a lot of players in the market,
yeah.
and you're vying for people's attention. So, anybody who listens to you is actually what they're saying is, I value you, therefore I'm going to give you my time to listen to you, and that's major. Okay, and we shouldn't take that for granted at all. It's
No.
like somebody saying, you're awesome, and I want to listen to you, and so um, going back to what I was saying is that we kind of like think that realistically, knowing that this market's so like this, I knew that going into it, it was
Yeah.
going to be tough. But the longer you go into it, the like, when is it going to get better? Even though I knew it was going to be tough. So maybe you go to gym, or maybe you trying to eat healthy. When is it going to get better? How can I motivate myself to take it to the next level or keep going on that level? And that's what we've got to ask ourselves.
Yeah. Um, to answer that, it's pretty much like when I started out going to the like when I started going to the gym, like there's a like story when I first really started where it was like I'm all in, I'm gonna take it seriously. Um, I were like going to the gym for a good year and a bit, like 26 kg dumbbells, like going, oh yeah, giving all the noise, giving all the grunts, groans. God, just like, yeah. Ah, ah. Then one day, personal trainer comes in with this like kid. Like kid was smaller than me. And like basically personal trainer gets him down, boom. Kid does 26 kg. I was like, yeah, no worries about that. Then did 28 kg. I was like, yeah, no, I. Then like 32 kgs. I was like, whoa, you weigh nowhere near me,
And
but
you're
you're
pushing
doing this,
32,
yeah,
yeah.
yeah, pushing these 32 kgs like nothing. And I didn't think anything of it. It was the very next day when I saw it happen again. I was like, right, what am I doing? Like, what am I doing? Like, okay, let's see me push myself for real, properly. And I went, okay, got the bench, picked up some 30 kgs, boom, no problem. Went up like knife through butter. I was like, okay. Did 32s. Yeah, I went, okay. Picked up the 34s and I was like, oh, struggled. I went, okay, that's where I am.
Mm-hmm.
And now this is what like I knew I needed to go right for like 3 days a week for a year. I just was like, okay, I'm gonna just bench press, dumbbells, like do that 3 days every week for
Yeah.
a year. And I went, okay, each month I would move up a weight. Each month I'd move up a weight. And
Yeah.
before I knew it, that one day I turned around and I looked, I was up at 44 kgs. I was like, right. Then another guy came in who had 50, like got the 50 kgs, like doing them like, yeah, like there was nothing. I was like, okay. Time went by. 6 months later, I was the person now doing the 50 kgs like it was nothing. It's a case of I understand it's a long, slow process. The thing I have to sort of keep in check for myself is a case of there's in my mind, I want to jump ahead,
Mm.
but because there isn't a sort of physical exertion on me, that's what makes me want to say I must jump ahead.
Mm.
But the case of the consistent and methodical process it needs to be to take you to that next level doesn't come with like extraordinary jump. Even if you like go like, even if you like go, I get 10 listeners and then all of a sudden goes to 20,000 listeners, there has to be the long, consistent work behind it.
Mm.
When you look at anyone who's like, I've got a top 10 podcast and like they look like they've come into it like just overnight, they've put in the work, the consistent work to build that sort of following, which
Mm.
gives them a sort of instant reaction in a new field because
Yeah.
they've got that and they put in that consistency. And like the whole thing is patience,
Yeah.
determination, like, and like just stay focused at the task at hand. And
Mm.
remember, consistency is the most powerful thing on all human lives
Mm.
because like what I've often seen, and like it's firsthand in other people's lives, if you consistently do a bad thing, your life gets worse. You consistently do a good thing, your life gets better. So it comes down to that. Yeah, by all means, there's going to be things where you want to be where you want to be, but you know it doesn't work that way with this without the consistent drive. And that's the whole thing. Whether podcasts exist like in 5 years time, 10 years time and stuff like this, this is what I'm going to do as well, like as doing like the fitness thing
Mm.
right now. Like even if it's the fitness thing's a side hustle, this is a side hustle, and I'm working a 9 to 5.
Yeah.
I'll do that. And like if it's like if something all of a sudden took off with like either the fitness thing or this, where it was like much more of a full-time endeavor,
Mm.
great. But I know this is not a process which is going to happen tomorrow. I know it's not a process which is going to happen in 6 months, a year from now.
Mm.
And if you look at anyone who they consider the great and the good in this field of podcasting, in like say YouTube or like in online and everything like this, they've been in it for 10 years. And like you know what, there are the like people who are the anomalies, but that is very rare and
Yeah.
few far between.
Yeah. And I'd say, some of my words of wisdom for people out there would be, and also a bit of a pet peeve, is that you get these guys who market things like, oh, you could have this if you sign up to my program, and you could have 10,000 followers if you sign up to this program that I've got. And it's almost like they want to sell you the success that you've just mentioned takes consistency, hard work, and time, which
Mm,
I believe is true, and to sell you this quick fix formula that might turn you into this superstar overnight.
yeah.
And that kind of like, I think what you got to do is don't believe the hype, but put in that hard work. You
Mm,
know, put in that and if you're really dedicated to your dream and you're really serving a purpose here on earth, who was that guy? I can't remember his name now. Bestwick, I think his surname is. Agape. It's the guy from Agape. What's it called? This guy, Agape something in America. It's not like a temple. It's like Agape something. And he said that when you serve that which is greater, a certain aspect of that. So let's say you want to help people in I don't know, whatever it is, right? To have better relationships. So maybe you're a relationship coach or something, whatever it is. So you're helping people in that because you're vibrating at that frequency, which is I want to help, and you submitted to that higher purpose. So it's a higher purpose than yourself. Then you submitted to that. You vibrate at that frequency, and you go and do it. So no matter if you got 10,000 followers, no matter if you got 100 followers, you're still dedicated to that dream, to that idea of this is how I want to help people. And it's that constant struggle between I want this to be a success and I want to be able to make a living from it versus it's my passion. So if it is your passion, understandably, you're going to want to make something of it so that you could rely upon it as an income. But I think that we might push that too quick, too fast. So keep, this is if someone's out there like, how do I follow my dreams? How do I do what I want to do, what I love, and get paid for it?
Yeah.
And it's probably and I'm still learning this, is a process of just do what you love doing. Start to grow value upon yourself. So money follows value, right? So if you're valuable in the marketplace, money will come. So if you can start to increase your value, your personal value, in that this is what I have to give, and people are like, geez, this guy's got a lot to give.
Yeah.
Then people will be attracted to you in that aspect. So I think it's, for your listeners, don't be disheartened in that you might feel, I can't do what I want to do because who's going to pay me for that? But just keep at it and increase the value in your space, and things will happen.
True, very true. No, I totally understand where you come from, and you raise some good, valid points to help. Well, how can I say, help provide clarity to many a person's mind who might want to do stuff, but they get sort of caught up with, I need to make it pay, I need it to do this, I need it to do that. Forget, don't focus on the need of what you want. Always focus on the value you provide to the others.
I like that.
And then basically take it from there. Now, if there was one book or two books you would recommend to someone to read, to basically for the first half of this year or for this month, what book would you recommend them read?
I've had a few books recently. I've got some here. Let's have a look. Well, all right. I'm going to give you one normal one and one kind of out there one. Are you ready for this?
Yeah, okay. I'm ready. Come on, bring it on.
Okay, so I got this book here by Greg Braden. Okay. So it's called, so for those who are listening, The Science of Self-Empowerment, Awakening the New Human Story. Okay. So if you like a bit of science, you like a bit of cosmic stuff about how we made and the science behind it, and our DNA and our genomes and how it actually works in our heart and our brain coherence and how we all connected and how the quantum field is everything. There's all these possibilities in the quantum field and all this like out there stuff.
Yeah.
Which I'm into. Obviously, I'm into a lot of that. Like I said, I'm into that deep thinking, that spiritual thinking. I wouldn't say it's a spiritual book necessarily, but it does challenge the norm. So it does challenge conventional science. Saying actually mentions in this book that the scientific evidence has actually been journaled, peer-reviewed, but it just hasn't been brought to the public. So it's a nice book if you like science, if you like the spiritual and the quantum field as well. I'd say go for that one by Greg Braden. There's also other books by Joe Dispenza, very similar author to him as well. And then something from the UK, you probably know the SAS guy, Ant Middleton.
Okay, yeah. I've heard of him. Yeah.
Ant Middleton, First Man In. A really good book. I read this cover to cover in just a few days, probably the quickest I've read a book. Really good lessons in here, leadership lessons. So, and easy to read, and really good stories about how he went through quite a lot of stuff in his life, and so it's quite inspirational. So I'd say, yeah, for the men out there who wanna be hardcore and like like a bit of a David Goggins, then yeah, I'd say Ant Middleton.
Okay. Yep. Have you read David Goggins' book, Can't Hurt Me?
Yeah, I have. Yeah,
Uh, I've
really
got to
good.
say, yeah, brilliant book. Trueness Goggins is an evil, evil man. Yeah.
That
Oh,
story rocked me, man. I can't believe what his dad did to him. It was just unbelievable.
no, no, it's very disturbing. And like, you know what? For him to like come through the other side the way he has,
Yeah,
yeah,
it's
rock
major.
solid.
That's major.
Yeah.
That's how to screw up a kid 101. You know,
Mm.
that's exactly what his father did to him, and look what he's done on the other side. Almost in a way, it makes me think sometimes that people who go through the most adverse situations, the hardest situations, sometimes are the people who end up being the most inspiring. And
Mm.
so, if you are listening and you screwed up, there's still chance for you.
Oh, brilliant. No, no, another like a book I would say I recommend to you,
Mm.
especially in those sort of realms of like talking about business. Um, Phil Knight, founder of Nike,
Okay.
uh, he made a book basically called Shoe Dogs. Yeah, brilliant book. Like, get on. Like, I listened to it on the audio.
Yeah.
Yeah, well worth it, like well worth it.
Shoe dogs.
Definitely. Yeah, Shoe Dogs talks about how before Nike it was Blue Ribbon and how like it went from Blue Ribbon to Nike and basically when they actually came to the point of like going public. Yeah, the long process, like cash flow being this, chaos here, chaos there, and then bringing it all together. It's marvelous.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I love a good book, man. Yeah.
yeah. Oh yes. Um, yeah. Okay, I'm just trying to think. Do I have any other questions for you? Oh, I think I might be tapped out. We're on we're on an hour and 6 minutes. So yeah. Tell the lovely people where they can find you, how they can get hold of you, and like yeah, like if you're definitely in the Cambridge or Newmarket area, hit up this man.
Yeah,
Like
man. Yeah, definitely. The easiest way to get hold of me is my name.com. So clintgrove.com. And all
mhm.
my social media links are on there, and the podcast links are on there, and there's some videos on there as well. So clintgrove.com. Check it out, and yeah, contact me if you're interested for change.
Excellent. I'll make sure I'll put the links in the descriptions, like on the podcast and when it's on YouTube, which I will get up by the end of this week. Yeah, but all the links will be there. So never fear. Like, yes. So please go out there, click on these links, and yeah, subscribe to the podcast as well, both of ours. And yeah, take it from there. But
Definitely. Miwa, it's been great on your being on your show. I really appreciate that, and these opportunities are always just so awesome. And I'm sure that we'll chat in the future and collaborate, I'm sure.
oh, without question, Clint. Pleasure speaking to you. Outstanding. And yeah, Clint, have an awesome day. And yeah, everyone out there, have a great day as well. Be awesome.
Uh,
Okay? Nice.
Thanks,
Oh,
buddy.
bye bye.
See ya.
One moment. Let me just